The following is a public service broadcast addressing local public affairs for the listening audience.
This is Mecca Musick with the Valley Report. This week on the Valley Report, we're checking in with U.S. Representative Robert Aderholt. Currently serving his 7th term in office, Congressman Aderholt is a Republican representing the 4th Congressional District of Alabama. Now, Representative Aderholt, you serve on the powerful House Appropriations Committee as a member of the Commerce, Justice, and Science Subcommittee, which is responsible for funding NASA. After recent cuts, you've been very vocal in protecting Alabama's interests, challenging President Obama's science advisor on the elimination of human spaceflight. And now there comes word there might be a plan B that NASA may be reconsidering scrapping the Constellation plan. Can you tell us how important the Constellation program is to Alabama, and have there been any new developments?
Well, you're exactly right in the fact that I think the administration is rethinking some of the things that's been going on, or some of the proposals they put forward. The president has been very disappointing to members of Congress, and this is on both sides of the aisle. Both Democrats and Republicans have been very disappointed that he has not been supportive of the Constellation program as I think a lot of people thought he would, or that possibly that we have seen in the past, and therefore, right now he wants to end the Constellation program. And during the Appropriations Subcommittee hearing that deals with the NASA, I was able to question the president's technology advisor, his top science and technology advisor, who is John Holdren, and just really press him on these questions. And not only myself, but all the Democrats and Republicans on the committee as well were very vocal and letting him know, and so that he could let the president know that we were not very pleased with the way the president has planned to move forward on this, on the Constellation and on the program. So we're going to do everything we can to try to keep the heat on the president, keep his feet to the fire, and we think that what the work that's done at Marshall and the work that's done in all the NASA centers are very important, and it's too important to try to send those things out to the private sector. There's a lot of investment that the United States has made over the past several years. There's a lot of great work that's done on these NASA facilities, and to absolutely get rid of the program at this juncture after we have poured millions and millions of dollars into it, I think will be a great mistake.
Congressman, let's take a look to the district north of yours for a moment. Congressman Parker Griffith, a former Democrat who switched parties at the beginning of the year and is now running as a Republican for re-election. Do you endorse Congressman Griffith in the 5th District congressional race?
Well, Parker and I have been friends when he first came to Congress. I did not know him previously. Matter of fact, I think I was kidding with him the other day. I think he'd actually supported my opponents in the past. So, but when he was elected a little over a year ago, I welcomed him here in Washington. We worked very closely together. I mean, it's because the two districts intertwine so much, and I have so much that depends on the Huntsville area because of jobs, NASA being a very big one of those, that we work very closely together, and we have to do that. And so he and I have worked very closely together from when he was a Democrat and then when he's a Republican. And I think he came to the conclusion that I think a lot of Democrats have come to the conclusion that he could better represent Huntsville and represent Alabama better as a Republican, because missile defense, the space program were something that's two big things in North Alabama and really for the entire state. And unfortunately, the Democrats and the Obama administration, that was very low on their priority list. Matter of fact, they were what you would perceive as being against those programs. So therefore, the Republicans were supporting the very programs that he was trying to support. So I think he felt like he had a better home in the Republican Party, and we welcomed him to the Republican Party. He's doing a great job, and I have enjoyed working with him. I know that there's been some concern about, switching parties, and I think a lot of people don't realize until they get to Washington how important it is to be a member of the party that you are most like. A lot of people talk about going to Washington and being conservative, yet running on the Democrat ticket. But once you get up here, you're forced to side with either the Democrats that are very liberal here in Washington, or the Republicans, which are more what most average Alabamians would be. And so, therefore, I think it was wise for him to make the move.
Well, you mentioned some concerns about his switch. In fact, Limestone and Madison GOP groups asked the National Republican Party to stay out of the race and even protested a recent fundraising event in Huntsville featuring House Minority Leader John Boehner. Do you believe the National Party should just stay out of the race?
Well, the thing about why I think the National Party is supportive of Parker Griffith is because he's towing the weight up here for Republicans. He has been standing against the Democrats, and he has been voting against them consistently since he switched parties, and he decided to make the switch. He voted a lot with the Republicans before, but now it's 100%. And for them to turn their back on him and say, we don't appreciate what you're doing, I think would be very disingenuous of the Republicans here in Washington. We're very thankful to have more people on our team. Anytime that somebody wants to come and fight on your team and to help pull their weight, and they're doing it, you have to welcome, and it's only the appropriate thing to do. And so, for those that are skeptical out there, I'd say, why don't you wait and look for it between now and June? There's an election in June. Look at his voting record, see how he votes between now and June. If he doesn't meet the standards that you believe, then there's other people to vote for. But I certainly think to come in immediately without having a chance to look at his voting record and give him a chance to vote as a Republican, I think would be a big mistake.
I'm Mecca Musick. This is the Valley Report. This week we're speaking with U.S. Representative Robert Aderholt of Alabama's 4th Congressional District, covering the north central portion of the state. Now let's turn our attention to Capitol Hill. Talk to us a little about the recent moratorium on earmarks by House Republicans. You are supporting the one-year ban on earmarks, but you are not against earmarks. If you believe earmarks are useful, why support the moratorium?
Well, this was a decision by the House Republican leadership, and as I say, I do think that earmarks can be very helpful. A lot of people have the misconception that earmarks are things that are put in the budget over and above what the regular spending is. It is not. The earmarks are basically taking what the administration decides, and for members of Congress to decide to get some of that money back for their areas. In other words, if there was going to be $5 billion that's spent in transportation dollars, sometimes several million will be dispersed among the states and the individual states for members to decide. It would not be an additional million or 50 million or 20 million. It would be included in the part that is sent to the president. So basically, it's either the president and the administration decides here in Washington where that money goes, or members of Congress get to direct that money in their particular districts. And I would be the first to say that I think I know a little bit better of how money should be guided in Alabama than somebody bureaucrat that's here in Washington D.C. And so it's only makes sense. Again, it's no more spending. The spending is cut out of the money that's already in the budget, so it's just directing the spending. Now, certainly there have been problems with earmarks in the past. There's been some earmarks that I've been embarrassed that have come through, and I voted against them. And we have made a lot of transformation. But there is still a perception out there, and a lot of people are confused exactly what earmarks are. And I think we need to clarify that up. The Republican leadership position was let's go ahead and let's try to reform this, and let's put a halt to it for the rest of the year until we can get a commitment from the Democrats that we have got to do something about getting some more standards in the system so that we will have more reliable ideas of how earmarks will be spent. So, and I support that, and I think that's a great idea, because every earmark that I have ever asked for and that have spent in for the state of Alabama, I'm certainly proud of it. I actually do press releases on it because it's usually things that are helping small communities with trying to get a water system into the area so they can bring jobs into an area, or various other things. So, the problem is the perception right now, and I think the only way for us to combat that negative perception out there is to say, explain to the American people that we've just got to stop the system, fix it, and then move forward.
Representative Aderholt, the biggest debate in the country continues to be health care. What's the latest on Capitol Hill?
Well, it's a changing scenario every day. you go back to last fall when the Republicans, the House of Representatives passed the legislation controlled by the Democrats, and then it was pushed through on the Senate side, and then, of course, the Massachusetts race occurred, in which they thought they were going to have the 60 votes, and then, of course, who would have thought that the seat held by the late Ted Kennedy would go to a Republican. And so, therefore, they've had to look at some other options of trying to get the legislation through other than that supermajority 60 votes. So what they have been looking at is a mechanism called reconciliation, which reconciles the two bills. Usually it's used on economic issues. It's usually never used for health care or anything else. And so, therefore, they are right now trying to use the reconciliation mechanism to try to move this through the House and through the Senate with a simple majority. The Democrats do have a majority in the House and the Senate, and they just don't have the supermajority in the Senate as they did before the election of Scott Brown in Massachusetts. But right now, I don't think they have the votes in the House of Representatives. I think they're still probably a handful of votes short. And so, therefore, I don't know what's going to happen. I know that the Speaker and that the Democrat leadership is putting a lot of pressure on Democrat members of Congress to vote for it, to try to get it through. But, all of us on the Republican side are against it, for many reasons. Of course, going toward more of a European-style socialist type of government where you have health care that's socialized is, I don't think, envision what the Founding Fathers had in mind. And number two, it's got the abortion language in it. It looks like it will have abortion language in it, which would provide abortions under health care, which I think most Americans say, it's one thing if you to be abortion, it's another thing for the taxpayer dollars to go to afford abortion for everyone in the country.
This is the Valley Report. I'm Mecca Musick, and we're talking with U.S. Representative Robert Aderholt. Serving his 7th term representing Alabama's 4th Congressional District, Republican Congressman Aderholt serves on the powerful House Appropriations Committee as the ranking member of the Subcommittee on the Legislative Branch and a member of the Commerce, Justice, and Science Subcommittee. Representative Aderholt also serves on the House Budget Committee. Congressman, as you know, the race for governor in Alabama is well underway. It's a crowded contest with 9 candidates, 7 of them seeking the Republican nomination. Have you worked with any of the candidates, and will you endorse any of the 7 Republicans before the primary?
All the 7 candidates that are running are friends of mine. I've got to know them throughout the years that I've been involved in politics. They're all of them are good people, and I think that probably any one of those Republicans that are running would uphold the Republican mantra and would hold to conservative values that I think most Alabamians would be proud of. I actually worked in the James administration. I worked for Fob James as assistant legal advisor, and then also, of course, Tim James did not work in the administration, his son, but as you know, he is running for governor as one of the Republican candidates. I have, indicated that I think Tim is a great choice. I think he'd do a great job. Again, this is not saying the other candidates are not good people. They are, because I know them. But I have sit down with Tim. Tim came to me back over a year ago and sat down with me, told me his vision for Alabama and his plan to try to receive the Republican nomination for governor. And I thought it certainly it was consistent with my beliefs, and so I think he's a great choice. But again, I've worked with all of them in some former capacity, and they're all good people. But as I say, Tim, I think, is an excellent choice, and no one would go wrong supporting him.
What's the can you even predict an outcome with 7 candidates on a primary ticket?
Well, I think there's going to be a runoff, obviously, because I don't think there's any one of those candidates will get 50% plus 1 vote. So I think you'll see the 2 of the top ones that will go into a runoff. Who those 2 top will be is still unclear, but it's still quite several weeks till June, and I think between now and June you'll see a lot more intensive campaigning for all the candidates. So I think really right now any poll that would be taken would be a little bit inaccurate because it's still a little early and a lot of the candidates have not started their campaign in earnest.
Representative Aderholt, thank you for taking the time to speak with us this week.
Well, it's good to be on Valley Report, and thank you for having me, and look forward to giving you an update in the future.
That's it for this week's Valley Report. I'm Mecca Musick.